we talk about the psychology of failure and how it is actually a very, very good thing. Because if you look at some of the most successful businesses and businessmen and women in the world, they had plenty of failure on their way to getting it right.
Kia ora team, Richard Liu here, editor at nzentrepreneur.co.nz, and there's a new degree in entrepreneurship available around New Zealand, and here to tell us about it today is Eric Thompson. He's the head of school design innovation at Whitecliff. Eric, thanks for talking to us today.
Well, my pleasure, Richard. Great to be able to chat.
Cool. So for those who haven't heard about Whitecliff, or can you just explain who you are? What's the organisation all about?
Yeah, Whitecliff's been has been actually quite well known, especially up in Auckland, as for fine arts and fashion traditionally. But a couple of years ago, the new owner decided they wanted to expand the graphic design, which was only a specialty, but expand it into the digital space because everything is going digitally, especially in design. So I was brought on board a couple of years ago to come and, first of all, write a new bachelor's of design and digital media, and then we got talking about doing a master's at the School of Design Innovation, and we chatted about it for quite a bit, but I decided I didn't want it to be an MBA, but something for creatives and entrepreneurs and founders and startups to actually give them a little bit of structure, because and so with much to and froing and a really big consultation with industry, I think I call it, we co-created the Masters in Creative Enterprise and Innovation with the industry. And they sort of told us what they missed learning about and what they struggled with, as founders and startups and things. So we put it together. And so this is Whitecliff sort of just expanding on its creativity it's had for about 30 years into a new space, and just looking at doing something to help young Kiwi founders, or even established founders, or somebody who's got a side hustle going on. And the great thing about Whitecliff is it's quite a small school. We're not like a big university where there's thousands of staff and thousands of people. So it means we can pivot and be quite agile as the industry changes and the wants and needs of the industry change. At Whitecliff, we can actually just pivot and change pretty quickly. And, it's part of being innovative.
And of course, all creatives, all makers and people who are in design, anyway, eventually if they decide to ever go out on their own, the first thing they need to learn about is, well, how do you actually run a business, right? Because our craft, we may be good at our craft, but building a sustainable, thriving business venture is completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. And it's also what we've focused on a lot, and we found out, is that resilience and, being risk tolerant. And we talk about the psychology of failure and how it is actually a very, very good thing. Because if you look at some of the most successful businesses and businessmen and women in the world, they had plenty of failure on their way to getting it right. So it's embracing that. And I think New Zealanders tend to have this little bit of fear of failing because they think their mates or their parents or somebody who's going to think, oh, you failed, it wasn't good. But to be truly creative, as creatives, you have to push the envelopes and actually fail. So there's a lot of that weaved in, as well as the understanding of business and how to do a bit of understanding markets and your intended audience. But we don't delve too much into doing business plans, because I think with ChatGPT and AI, they can put together a pretty robust, outline for a business plan. So, but it's more about how you look at the problem you're trying to solve, or if it's a service, providing a new service or a product or a design or something, is to look at it and break it down, pull it apart, and make sure it's robust enough. But also the great thing that we found on some of the feedback was that doing it in an educational space as a safety net. I mean, I'm sure lots of people listening to this and yourself, a lot of times you're on your own, you're in your garage, you're in your spare room till midnight at night, and nobody really understands what it's like to set up a business or start from scratch. Although they'll be there for help, they don't really understand what it's like. So if you're with a whole lot of like-minded startup founders or people who want to do something with their side hustle, it just means it's more collaborative and you can bounce ideas off each other and stuff.
Now it's called the Master of Creative Enterprise and Innovation. Can you tell us more about what's in the actual program? How long is it? Where do people need to be in order to do it?
Yeah. It's a what's called a low residency masters, which means you don't have to be on campus. We only expect people to come on campus 4 times in each semester. So it's 18 months, so 3 semesters, and just 4 times, in which just an all-day Saturday gig, basically. So you come on campus and there'll be workshops, there'll be master classes, there'll be panels, there'll be specialized speakers. So it's a whole big day where everybody comes together and they can bounce ideas off each other and talk and get some structured learning. And in between those things, there are a lot of online, there'll be subject matter experts in certain areas for online, and there'll be panels online. And you can have access to Dr. Mark Bradford, who's the program leader of the master's degree. And he'll be available if people want a one-on-one, or they're a bit stuck, or they want some new knowledge. And interspersed with that are regular recorded videos from some venture capitalists, or how to pitch, or mental resilience coaches and people like that. So each week you have to do something, but you can do it in your own time. And it is especially for people to fit around life, because life gets in the way of life quite a bit. So, and it's quite agile. So that's why we've made it that low residency.
And can anyone join? Do you have to have a degree already? It's a master's?
No, you don't. I mean, if you've got a bachelor's degree already, that's fine, which means, you can understand study. But if somebody's had we've already had a couple of applicants who have started a couple of little side hustles, and they've been a bit successful, but they've never been able to scale them. And part of the learning is, like, if you start small, it might be popular in your town or your city, but you don't know how to make that next leap to scale it up. So you learn all that, and the networking. So if somebody comes in and, they don't have a bachelor's, but they've got, I call it, as long as you're innately curious and you have a sense of self-worth and belief, you'll be fine. And we just look at what they've done in the past. And we've just got, I'd offer a place to a pretty young mum in her early 30s who's been quite entrepreneurial and innovative, but has never actually had like the scaffolding or the framework to be able to push on.
Yeah, and that's so common, isn't it, for first-time business owners? Most of the learning is done out there trying to build something from mistakes. You don't know what you're doing. You get started anyway, and you try a bunch of things, and some of them work. But so often, we talk to entrepreneurs who you actually ask them, what was the secret to your success? And a lot of them default to the old, luck and hard work, which is true, but in terms of the mechanisms and the processes that they might have employed that got them the actual outcome, often they're not entirely sure really what they did right. It's that whole difference between unconscious competence and conscious competence. So I think there's real value in being able to, especially if you've got some experience out there building, to now go back in and build out, as you say, some of that scaffolding, to start to understand some of that process and that critical thinking.
That's the one.
You may not even know you did.
A lot of people do it innately, but you're so right, Richard, is that critical thinking and being able to analyze something and go, this is what I did wrong, or this is down the wrong path, or realizing, oh, if I dive deep into the stakeholders or intended users, this is maybe not what they want. And you go, and you can pivot your idea or build on a part of it and go in the right direction and have the guidance of all these experts sort of around you. And, you'll never avoid all the pitfalls, but hopefully you'll cut them right down. And the other thing that some people are interested in, they're saying, well, I would have done it anyway and stumbled along, but at least now I can get a degree out of it. I can get a master's out of it. So, that's sort of an added value. And
do you have to be in Auckland? So it's low residence?
No, low residence anywhere. It's only for people domiciled or have the right to residency in New Zealand. But as I said, it's anybody in the country can do it, but they have to be able to come up, 4 times over 6 months. And we found the feedback, that's not asking too much, just to come up for a day, 4 times in the semester.
All right. Well, exciting to, again, have more options available for people interested in learning about entrepreneurship and innovation. So keen to see how it all goes. Any last words for entrepreneurs out there watching?
It's just, I think it's, if they're wondering what we're actually looking for, it is that innate curiosity about everything and that sense of purpose and self-belief. So it's not really for somebody that's a bit, well, I don't quite know what to do, and I don't really have an idea, but I may as well just do this. That's not really for that. This is for people who have an idea And whether the idea works out or not, that's all part of the journey, because there's always be something in that idea that you can turn into something. But it's to have that drive. I don't call it passion, Richard. I think passion comes later. It's like the example I tend to use is like somebody who made billions out of widgets or nuts and bolts. They didn't have a passion for nuts and bolts to start with. They do now on their Learjet. Oh, I've been always passionate about nuts and bolts. But to start with, there was just this, I found this niche. I knew I could do a good job, and off you go. So it's for that, and for people, and it's non-disciplinary. So it doesn't matter what you're doing or what your interest has been or what you studied or what you work in. It's completely, it's just about the idea.